Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. It's good to be back. It's been a good minute since we sat down and recorded, so
it has.
Feels like Christmas morning to me. I woke up all giddy this morning, getting ready to record.
Yeah, because we haven't recorded a podcast since before Christmas.
Yeah, it's been. I think it has been over a month now. It was like something like early 20th of.
Yeah, because we double recorded so we could cover the holidays.
Yeah.
And then I got COVID the first of the year, and that took me out for 2 weeks. So here we are.
We're back.
Recording another episode of the Battlefield Show. In this episode, we're just going to do a recap of all the things that have been going on in the Battlefield community, the controversies, all the thing that's been, everything that's been going on. We want to give like a recap of what we have missed on the podcast and some of our thoughts on that, because there's so much to talk about and we haven't had the chance to talk about it on the podcast. So let's get started. This podcast is a production of Uplink Media Group. Uplink is a podcast network dedicated to highlighting the love and experience of gaming and pop culture. Check out our other show, Star Wars Uplink and The Forge, the Halo Infinite podcast, as well as our YouTube channels for even deeper dives into Battlefield, Star Wars, and more. YouTube.com/Uplink podcast and StarWarsUplink.com. Oh, Sammy Boy, Battlefield. Oh boy, it's dude, like I can't think of another game that has had this kind of reception. I don't even think you could compare it to Cyberpunk, because like Cyberpunk, they had an apology at the point that Battlefield 2042 is right now.
Yeah.
They've had a dedication and a roadmap of what to expect for the game. We had so much more details on all the things that happened in Cyberpunk 2077 that like caused the company to get sued and became a noun and a verb for all these other games. And I can't even make the I went back and listened to some of the old episodes, and I it was hilarious when we were like, hopefully it's not Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
Right? It can't be. It can't be that bad. Here we are. Yep. So, Sammy, how have you been experiencing Battlefield 2042 since we last spoke?
Weirdly enough, even though I've definitely got my thoughts on like the state of the game and the community, but in terms of like the game itself, weirdly enough, I've actually been enjoying it more since like the start of the year. Weirdly enough, because I had a probably I want to say 2 to 3 weeks completely without playing, and that wasn't because of the state of the game. It was mostly just like over Christmas, and I was just too busy to really play. So unintentionally, I had a really nice break from it, and at that time, like I was playing and getting footage for videos and stuff, but I wasn't really like, I didn't have that itch to play. Every time I was playing, it was more like scheduled in, like, oh, I better play Battlefield today. But I actually got the itch back. Like early January, I was actually like, oh, I actually really want to play 2042. So weirdly enough, yeah, like despite what's going on, I'm not happy with certain elements of the, what they're doing and the community and stuff, but the actual game itself, weirdly, I'm having a lot of fun with it. So I'm in a weird spot with it. Like I'm having more fun than I was when it was looking promising, when they would, they did 4 updates in a month or whatever. And I'm having more fun now, which is weird. But yeah, how long that lasts will depend on what they do from here. And that's, I think, that's the main talking point at the moment, is just like what is actually going on at the moment.
So we found out Sammy's kink is DICE abandoning video games.
I love when they cancel my favorite games.
Yeah, so great. Yeah, so like I have had kind of like, during the time that everyone was like first hating on it, I was enjoying it. And then I kind of have like the inverse experience of you, because like right now I'm just not having fun with it. It's a really strange experience for me, because like it ticks most of the boxes that I really wanted a Battlefield game to be in like a near future setting. But like their dedication to it and kind of what they've been focusing on or lack thereof, it shows how incompetent DICE has become as a game developer. And it's super sad to see because, like, I have so much nostalgia around the Battlefront franchise, and Battlefront 2015 was fantastic. Battlefield 1 was incredible. But, like, ever since Battlefield 1, it seems like they've lost the conviction. They've lost the grit necessary to deliver a game in the current game space. It's super disappointing. But, like, the game itself, like, I jump in and it just reminds me of all of the things that I don't like about it. So it's really frustrating. Like, I'm still playing it for sure. But, like, when I think about playing it, it's like, okay, I got to play some Battlefield, which it's super sad. And, like, Westy went on a string of tweets talking about, like, the comparison that people are making with, oh, well, Battlefield 4 launched in a worse state. And, like, he went back and broke down, like, well, one, the game industry has changed. It's a completely different game industry than it was in 2012 when Battlefield 4 came out. We also had 2 sets of DLC that had released at this point for Battlefield 4. We had an apology or a dedication that they were going to fix the game from DICE. We had 4 new maps, a crap ton of weapons, and details on what was coming.
Yeah,
it's
a
night
stark
and day
contrast,
difference,
isn't it? Yeah, and the thing, like, I do use that a lot of the time as well, like, sort of saying, you know, Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 5 launched in pretty much the same, not the same reasons, but the same state as this. It was not a good launch for both of those games, but they came out, and even though it took a long time to fix them, but they kind of, like, just reaffirmed to us that, like, we know it's rough, we're going to fix it, and they haven't really done that with this game, and that's the part, for me, I just need to hear them say that. They have said, like, in December when they had the announcements around, you know, Vince coming on board and stuff like that, they did say, we're committed to 2042 for years to come, but that wasn't, like, a formal, that was just, like, part of their announcement. I need, like,
and that was
to
more of, like, a PR talk.
Yeah, it was more like, here's the big announcement, and they're going to do this for this game for a few years. Like, it was just an afterthought on that whole announcement, and I need them to come out and say, just do one of those typical, like, cringy tweets that's like a picture with a black background and white text, and just say, like, we messed up.
Do an iPhone notes apology.
Something. just like, give us, just confirm with us that this is still going ahead, because there's so much, like, all the talk about the free-to-play stuff, and then, you know, they seem to be unhappy, or EA seem to be unhappy with DICE, with how this has gone, and all that. It's all seeming like, oh, could they actually, like, could this get cancelled? Could they just move on to the next one? Even though I don't think that will happen.
You know the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other? It's like DICE, EA, and all the people involved are, like, just pointing at each other like, we're really disappointed. Well, DICE, well, we needed more time, but you did a bad thing. Like, they're all pointing at each other when they're all the reasons why it's in the current state. Like, EA has no right to be disappointed because they did not. In my opinion, it's more their fault than DICE's, because they didn't didn't give them the time that they needed. They clearly, when my whole theory with the delay that we got, which was a month, was that DICE was probably saying to EA, like, this is not ready, we need a delay. And EA were like, no, we can't. This is our biggest game of the year. Like, this has to come out. And when you hit those holiday numbers.
Yeah. And so they eventually, I guess you would say, caved, but they gave him a month, not a year. Like, it definitely needed, even just 6 months, it needed extra time to you know, get all the elements that we don't have, those, like, the legacy features, as they call them, and then, you know, a bit more.
I hate that term so much.
It pisses me off so much. Even, like, more weapons and stuff. They clearly needed more time, and I
content.
Yeah, I put more of the blame onto EA. Not to say that DICE are completely, like, they get off scot-free. They've made mistakes too, but EA need to realize, like, we should have, like, they know what they're doing. EA don't make games; they publish them. They don't. They clearly, the higher ups clearly have absolutely no idea what they're doing, when it comes to
Yeah.
developing games and stuff. So they need to just listen
And
to
like,
DICE,
yeah.
just the same way that they listen to Respawn with Fallen Order. They need to listen and say, oh, they're still going to be like, oh, we really needed to come out this year. But if DICE keep insisting, no, we can't do that. Just listen.
Yeah, and like I've heard differing reports on how EA handles its studios, and I think the main thing is that the heads of DICE don't have the separation that other studios within EA have.
Yeah.
I think they're if not dependent on the decisions EA makes, they are heavily influenced in them and don't make those decisions in a very... I'll explain it this way. They look at it from a statistical point of view, which EA is all about, rather than this is going to be a good game point of view.
Yeah.
Like Respawn, they say this is going to be a great game.
Yeah.
And we're going to make that game. No, Lucasfilm, we're not going to make a shooter game. We're going to make a lightsaber game because that's what we want to make.
Even with
And
Apex,
then
they had no trailer. It just dropped on the day. Like it takes some balls to do that, and they knew this is a good game. We're going to launch it. We don't need... EA would have no doubt gone, nah, you have to market this, and I think Vince would have just said, "No, we want to do it as a surprise, and you're going to listen to it."
They're like accidentally pressing the button, like, "Oh, it's already out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry."
So that's the only really promising part about what's going on, is that we know Vince is now like the head of it, and I think he is just the man to say, "No, we're not." Like next time this sort of situation happens, that doesn't mean the next game's going to be the best game ever, because they still have to make the best game, but in terms of getting rushed out and like forcing them to put in specialists for microtransactions or whatever the case may be. Like I just don't think they're going to get that pressure from EA moving forward. Hopefully, whether that happens, who knows? But
so I have a question for you. Do you think that we're actually going to see Vince Zampella's effect on Battlefield for Battlefield 2042? Because I almost think it's too late. Like, there has been such a visceral negative reaction around Battlefield 2042, like even to the point where it is a rarity to hear someone be like, no, it's a great game. Like, it's like, I know it's bad, but I have some fun sometimes. But like I think it's even rare to hear that.
Yeah, to me, this isn't that. In fact, the Battlefront 2 launch was worse than this. I think this has got recency bias because it's just happening at the moment. Yeah, Battlefront 2 was absolutely way worse than this. It was the biggest PR disaster.
But I think it's because people
time,
care more about Star Wars than they do about Battlefield at this point. Like, Battlefield as a franchise has lost its way so much. Like, it's getting to the point where people are like, well, I don't really care that much, so I'm going to play a different game. Like, there's so much more competition than there has been ever before in the first-person shooter space.
Yeah, I definitely think there's more competition, but I just don't think that... I don't think it's too late for this game to come back because I've seen it done before, and I think Vince and the other people like Marcus Leto and stuff, the people they brought on, it's going to take... I'm not even saying, like... I think the chances of it turning around are like 10%, but it's definitely not at the point where it's like he may as well give up on it. I think they still, if they stick to their plan and actually give us all the seasons and we get more content and they fix it, then I don't know. I just think once things turn around, like people will start to just move on. The same thing happened with Battlefront 2, where it was just so visceral at the start, and then once they see, remember that like as soon as they announced the Clone Wars stuff, it was just like, oh, bang,
that was the turning
we're
point.
all happy now. Like, I'll wait 6 months for you to do that, and that's fine. So I think once we just get that, it's so like in the moment right now, because we don't have any roadmap and there's no information right now. So we're all sitting in the dark, and it makes it so much more like stressful and so much more like painful, I guess, for the fan base. But once they come out with the roadmap, and that's the issue. When will that be? If that's 3-4 months away, then maybe it's too late. But if they put out a roadmap in the next, like, I don't know, sometime in Feb, and it looks good, and they stick to what they do, I think things can pretty easily turn around. Not that it'll be the best Battlefield ever, but I think it can. Just the same way that Battlefield 5, even that launched to me that was just as bad as this, to be honest, because it was just so disappointing. It was not what we wanted, and it was the same. Probably not as bad from the whole community standpoint, but for me, it was like I stopped playing that game after like a week, and then once I saw like the actual transition and the plan that they had, it's pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are pretty quick to go, oh, okay, like I haven't been playing this game, but you know, if it looks good, I'll come back to it. So yeah, I don't think it's too late, but whether we see his effect in this game, I'm not 100% sure. It just kind of depends how long it takes them to turn it around.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think this game just shows all of the problems with the actual infrastructure at DICE for a game to be made. We're seeing... well, I can't say anything about that. Well, you can't say anything about that because of the inner structure within your company. And that is something that you can change. It's going to take a lot of work, but if you have the motivation to do so, you can make that change. You can you can clear the way for this communication to happen, because I feel like they're trying to figure out what to say, but like literally all they need to say is, we're sorry, we're working on it. Here are some of the things that we're going to work on. Like, that's all they need to say. They don't even have to go to specifics, but they can say, hey, we know that these things need to be fixed. We're aware of that. We're sorry. When we launched Battlefield 2042, we hope to give you a robust Battlefield experience. And we understand that we failed at that. We're going to put in the work to make this game better. Like, boom. Copy, paste what I just said, put it into a Battlefield background with some white text. Boom, you're ready. Slap a logo on there. I mean, something similar to how they announced the delay of the game. But I think one of the things too is like they don't know if they're going to even be able to do that. Like when EA is a company, like they're one of the biggest game companies in the world. Like their valuation is huge. I think them being disappointed, and that it is reported to be disappointed, because like Battlefront was never a disappointment monetarily. It sold because Star Wars sells no matter what. They had a huge marketing and PR issue. Like everyone had a belief of what it was when it wasn't that. But like it was still selling. And like even with all that controversy, it never went on sale so quickly and so drastically. It's crazy. Like we said this before on the podcast. It's either going to be a groundbreaking success or a historic failure.
Yeah. There was never an in between, and that's 100% true. It was never going to be just like, yeah, this is a pretty good game. Like it was just never going to be that. And it turns out we were correct in the most unfortunate of ways. But
yeah. We're too good at this, man. Question for you, kind of switching gears a little bit. We have this discussion that EA is not happy with the performance of Battlefield 2042. We have reports of a more than 70% drop in player base. Hazard Zone is dead. Most of the places that you can play it. Portal seems to be the only highlight of the game, but it is weakened so severely by the experience gain, and it doesn't seem to be they've taken efforts to make it better, but it's still not to the level that people want. And I don't understand why it's such a big deal around XP leveling. If people are driven to the point where, hey, they want to make an XP grinding mode, maybe you should look at the XP earn in your game and instead be like, no, you can't do that.
Here's my thoughts on the whole XP thing. Who cares how much XP people get? Unless it's like they're glitching it to where you just get everything unlocked in one kill. That's a bit different. But even the zombie mode that they had last week or whenever that was, 2 weeks ago, it wasn't that bad. I still had to... I sat there for probably 3 hours just grinding some weapons. I still had to sit there and mindlessly
Yeah, you're
kill
still
people.
playing
I was
the
still
game.
doing the mode was played exactly as intended. Survive from the zombies.
XP grinding is more of a concern on a developer end than it is actually, because
Yeah.
players love it. They can get to their
Yeah.
weapons faster because it's so frustrating to be able to level up your weapons
Yeah.
the way the game is. Like, it's such a consumer focused thing that I don't think they understand it. Like, so many other developers, like, yeah, we don't care.
It's
Do
I've
it.
never
Perfectly
understood
fine.
the whole like the grind. I do enjoy there's certain things, for example, like the mastery skins and stuff. That's a little bit different because that's like meant to be like the final thing that you can unlock. It's meant to be hard to get there, and if you have it, it's like one of a kind type of thing. But the whole like even just unlocking the base weapons, like getting to level 60, that took me a long time. I'm still only level 77. I've been playing pretty much every day since launch, and yeah, like I don't understand the whole like need for such a
It's a young man's game.
Yeah.
Like,
that's just something that
I
was
don't
in
have the
past.
time to grind
Yeah.
that. Like, I play pretty regularly, and I think I'm only level 25.
Yeah.
Because I can't dedicate the time necessary. Like, I am never going to get any of the skins or anything like that, and it's super disheartening to me.
Yeah.
Because I run a production company, and I also work full-time at a tech startup. I'm married. Like, I barely have time to do that, and I can't dedicate that time necessary, and so it's super frustrating. But like all these things aside, Portal is like one of the highlights of the game. It's such a love letter to Battlefield fans, and I truly believe that. And they stuck to their guns, and that was the perfect way to describe Portal. But they have some key failings and some weird things. But like there was with EA disappointed with Battlefield 2042 and its performance, there was a free-to-play element considered, and it's like, guys, you're just now considering this because the game failed miserably because you didn't implement it very well. Like, maybe this should have been part of your plan the whole time, like you said it was going to be in that investors meeting.
That baffles me. I remember I was like, it seemed the Battlefield, because I guess like Battlefield hadn't had free-to-play stuff in the past. A lot of the Battlefield community they were like against free-to-play Hazard Zone. When they announced it, everyone was like, "Oh, good that it's not free-to-play. It shouldn't. That we don't want hackers." Blah blah blah.
Which, like, what?
I was so confused, and I was one of the few people, and I think the only people I saw that were actually for it being free-to-play were the people who had come from outside games. Those people like Westy, who's been playing Warzone, stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
we were baffled. Like, how is this not free to play? How could they make such a dumb decision? And the majority of the community, though, the core community, they were like, "Nah, that's fine. Who cares?" And it's now who is the ones who are kind of like, "Oh, you probably should have listened to us when we were complaining, because we weren't complaining for no reason. Like, there was a reason. Everyone was, well, not everyone. It was a small minority, but the people who were complaining, we had a valid reason, because now." Look at, like, Hazard Zone's dead, and it actually genuinely has potential. It's a fun mode, but it is dead, and it won't. I don't think they can, unless they completely overhaul it and make it free to play. I don't think it's making a comeback either.
I don't think it even has enough draw to, even if they put it free to play, for people to draw, like, come in and specifically want to play that, and then also have an enjoyable experience to where they go from Hazard Zone to buying the game.
Yeah.
Which, like, I heard a few people saying, okay, if they do go free to play, what would they put free to play? And Tom Henderson said some of his sources, they don't want All Out Warfare or Hazard Zone to go free to play, but they're considering Portal, which, like, I never considered that to be free to play. But it also makes so much sense because it's such a clear pathway to, one, monetization, because you can have seasons. You can offer, dude, could you imagine if they had a Battlefield 3 season, Battlefield 4 season, Battlefield 1 season, and then you also get, like, you get base skins, but you can also unlock the vast library of the skins that they had for those games through a season pass that you pay for. Like,
yeah,
boom,
there's quite
money.
a bit there. Yeah, it's a weird one, because to me, Portal seems like the one that almost shouldn't be free to play, even though what you just said makes complete sense. But like, firstly, Hazard Zone is the very obvious choice. How they don't see that is just like, who makes those decisions? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
do you ever look at the internet or not? Because
Yeah.
that is the type of mode that people are addicted to. Look at Warzone, Apex, Fortnite. They want that
But
really
like,
intense
yeah.
mode, and so if you offer that for free, people will, now I'm not sure they will because there's not enough hype around the game. But even then, even with
They
the state of the
definitely
game,
need something groundbreaking. Like they need
yeah,
to completely revise Hazard Zone, which I don't think they will
nah,
to the level that it needs to be, because it needs to be wiped completely clean and then built up something, or they need to launch something new. But like what they have in the game mode, like I agree, it doesn't make sense because the best part of Battlefield 2042 is Portal, so why would you make that free to play?
yeah,
But that's the exact reason why you'd make it free to play, is because it's the best mode. It's the thing that people would be attracted to. It is something that OG Battlefield fans would like. It's something that new Battlefield fans will enjoy. So that's kind of like what I would think about it.
yeah,
But like you, I had, when I heard that, I was like, no way.
yeah,
But it's also Ripple Effect, which was Vince Zampella started. Like
yeah,
they understand. They made this experience. They know the Battlefield game because they went through and they redid Battlefield 1942. They did Battlefield 3. They did Battlefield Bad Company 2. Like all the great things about this game and the love letter to the franchise that they truly understand is from Ripple Effect. So I think they have a good shot at it.
yeah. For me, if that goes free to play, I just think make the whole game free to play because there's no point
Yeah.
even getting.
Mhm.
If you get Portal,
That's
you've
true.
got all
Yep.
everything you need. You can do everything that.
Yeah, because you have the
Warfare can
whole
do.
Battlefield experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think that's why, because I'm definitely not against it. I'm all for it, but it's more just like doesn't make as much sense to me because it's like if that's free, you're not like no one's gonna buy All Out Warfare. They can just do that in Portal.
Yeah,
So just
exactly.
make, if they're gonna do that, if they're gonna make it free to play, I should say, it's either got to be Hazard Zone or the whole game. I don't see any in between because
Yeah.
if Portal's free, then that'd be great. But like from their perspective, like they're not gonna gain anything because there's no. As far as we know with the battle passes and stuff, I don't know if any of that will relate to Portal. So they're not going to sell battle passes, and they're probably not going to sell the game either because you can do it all in Portal anyway.
How would you feel if they went free to play? Like we both spent the most amount of money that you can spend on Battlefield,
Yeah.
and we still don't know what we get in terms of season content. But how would you feel if like next month they announce, okay, we're going free to play, 3 months?
This is a hot take
$120.
from what I've seen in the community. I would be very happy if that happened. And I not only
So,
bought
like-
the deluxe edition, but I've bought the game again to do testing on the PC. So I bought 2 copies. I've spent $200+, and I would be completely like so happy with that because
Yeah.
a lot of people will say, and I really do understand that, like, oh, I bought the game and now it's free. That's such a rip-off. But you bought the game and you play it when it wasn't free. Depending on how much you played, if you played one game, then whatever. But if you got to level 50, like you've probably gotten your hours worth out of that. You know what I mean? Like you've probably played at level 50, you've probably played for like 100 hours. So $1 an hour, like that, I don't know. To me, that's not that big of a deal if you bought the game and then it's free a few months later. I do get it because it's on the other side of that. It's like, yeah, well, I spent money. I could have just waited till it's free. So it's kind of a really weird situation, but me personally,
it's
I would
honestly
be very happy with that.
Yeah. Honestly, like it's such a hot topic because if you did pre-order the game, but it's like such an experience. Like, hey, don't pre-order your game. Wait until it comes out and see what it's like. That's definitely one of the ways that you can go for it. Like honestly, if they went free to play, my wallet would hurt a little bit. But ultimately, it's a better thing for the game itself. I'd rather pay $120 and then hold $120 or I'd rather pay $120 and it go free to play than have it always be $120 and then it never change or get more people.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather lose that money and have a vibrant community that I can play with and the game gets better because it's making money than one where it stays the price it was always and it dies.
Yeah, I think like if they were to do that, like maybe give some sort of like exclusive bonus to those who paid for it, like some sort of
That's a great idea.
a
I
bunch
haven't
of
heard
skins,
that.
like
Yeah.
even just release, which might affect the battle pass, but even release like one skin for each character that is, you cannot ever get that again unless you have bought the game. Like just something to like
Yeah.
acknowledge the people, because I think that's the part that that the
You feel
community
so special.
Yeah, I think that's the part the community is like annoyed about is
Have
that
the ability to just delete McKay. That would be huge.
Oh, I would pay another 120 for that. But yeah, I just think I don't know. I get why people are annoyed at it, but if people want this game, like I'm gonna be honest, I don't see this game, or I wouldn't say I don't see it, but I think it's very, very unlikely this game ever turns out to what it should have been if it does go free to play. If it stays behind a paywall, it's gonna take them so much work to gain people's trust back. Whereas if it's free, once the seasons start coming out and stuff, people don't have to trust the game because they'll just download it, and if it's they'll just delete it. Like who cares? So you kind of remove that worry of that they've lost our trust, and people are going to download the game. Like it will get heaps of downloads even in the current state, because there's even going to be people who are like, oh, I've heard so many bad things about this game, I'm just going to download it and play it for an hour and see what it's like.
Yeah.
And if you get it to a state where it's
barrier
actually
of entry's 0.
Yeah. If you get it to a state where it's even, 10% better than it is now, I think a lot of those people who have probably just been hating on the game and they haven't even played it, they would probably download it and go, oh, this isn't actually even that bad.
I don't understand.
Yeah. It's the same thing as like a console war situation. It's a lot of just like Call of Duty people just bash the game. They probably haven't even watched gameplay. It's just like they hear it's doing bad and they jump on it. That's why I'm not so... Everyone's so like doomsday about the game right now, and to me personally, it's not good, but it's definitely not as bad as people are saying, and it's just because people are just jumping on the hate train. It was the same with Cyberpunk. Like, it was very bad, but it got way more hate than it actually probably deserved, because simply once that train starts going, it's not stopping. It was the same with remember like the YouTube rewind that got the most dislikes ever. Like, I didn't even watch that. I just went on it and left the dislike because I wanted to see how high we could all get the number.
Really?
Yeah, like it was just, it's one of those things that everyone jumps on board and they're like, oh, this is, everyone's joining in, this is funny, when
that's why they removed the dislikes.
So it's definitely in a rough spot, but I also think people are making it sound a lot worse than it actually is, if that makes sense. It's not... People are overreacting, not that it's bad, but how bad it is, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Like, I think it is... Of all the games that it released around, it is the worst of all of them.
Yeah, I would agree
I
with
think
that.
it needed so many more things, and honestly it just shows how many people have left DICE that made the games as they were. And I think that's indicative of the management structure too. Like, I think it's more of like a business side than actual developers, because the developers are doing what they do. Like, they have a day job, and I think that's what most people forget, and I even have to catch myself sometimes. Like, when I see a developer tweeting about things randomly, it's like there's that initial reaction like, man, this game's crap, but it's like, also, you're working a job. You're gonna go home, you're gonna turn off your computer, or you're probably working from home, but you're gonna turn off the computer, you're gonna go in, make supper, and you're more than likely not gonna be thinking about it, or you shouldn't think about it, because it's your day job. That's the thing that you do to get food, pay rent. Like, you get into the game industry because you have a love for games, but honestly, it's healthier to think of it as a job.
Yeah.
So when you get offline, that, like, there's a discussion I shared with you between Tom Henderson and Darko, who's one of the senior UI designers or something like that, engineers, we've talked about this before. Like, I feel so weird about developers using their platforms, which they have the total right to talk about their work, but there's a blurring of the lines when you say my own opinions, but you're also announcing things that are coming in the game. It's rough, and there's that interaction between Tom Henderson, who is a leaker, one of the guys that he was definitely hyping the game before it came out, doing all the stories, and then as it came out, he started getting more information and has been leading the charge around more information coming out from the studio around Battlefield 2042. Whether you love him or hate him, I really appreciate him as someone who plays the game and loves the inner workings of game studios. Now, you can definitely, like, we've had this discussion whether you agree with his morals and his standing and all that kind of stuff. If you are friends with developers, people that leak are the scum of the earth. But if you're friends with people that are playing the game, obviously there's that appreciation of it because they're not going to tell you it. So you're getting it from somewhere. Obviously, take everything with a grain of salt. He's definitely covering his butt. He's doing this as a job as well to make money, just as Darko is doing it as a job to make money. But like there's such a disconnect between the fans that are playing the game and what they want, and the developers and who are making the game and what they want to make. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah, it's a weird, just a weird situation in general. That I couldn't agree more about just why are they on Twitter? Like, I just don't get it. I don't. If I was a dev, I'd be the furthest away from Twitter.
I'm not touching the platform ever. No. I'm making everything private. Yeah. I'm going to be fake names, everything.
Yeah, like, because, and I get it for say like Kevin and Freeman and stuff. That's a bit different because they're like the middleman between the community and
but they should also have a separate account for community management. Yeah. Like that is their job, but it should be under a separate account from their personal.
Yeah, that's
ones.
what
they should log into the account.
I don't get how. Yeah, it's a weird, like, they've made that Battlefield direct communication or whatever, and then I'm literally on Twitter at the moment. I've just got Twitter loaded while we're talking, and from 12 hours ago, the first thing that's on my timeline is Kevin tweeting about the weekly missions. And I absolutely love Kevin. He's one of the nicest people I've met. But
yeah, he's a fantastic
I don't want him to be like I don't want to read the comments of that because people are just going to be hating on Kevin. He doesn't deserve that. If it's on the Battlefield account, like, who cares? Because even there is still someone behind it, but they're not directly getting that hate. They can just sign into their own account, and then they're not going to see that. So we've gone through this before, but it's such a weird thing to me. Like, if I was a developer, I would not have, like, I'd probably have Twitter to just, like, keep up with your friends and stuff, but I would not be involving myself in the community whatsoever because you're just going to get so much hate. And to be fair, it's not really their fault. Like, the community shouldn't be doing that, but it's just going to happen. There's no, that's how the internet happens. Like, you can't stop that. So it's a weird, it's a weird thing for me. I've never understood it, really.
Yeah. On that note, let's talk about the community and its reaction. And it's disappointing, honestly. Everyone's obviously entitled to their own opinion, but whether you share it and just be a horrible human being about it, there's a separation there. Like, Battlefield's community has become so toxic. They were talking about shutting down the subreddit, which I've been perfectly fine with. Yeah. Reddit is the scum of the earth. I'm fine never touching Reddit ever.
Yep. I actually, funny story, like right before we started recording, I've got a series on my channel that is reacting to Reddit, and that is literally what I was doing right before this. It's so toxic, dude. So bad. I hate Reddit so much. It's such a bad website.
It attracts so much scum and villainy.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird. But yeah, it's the community it's so weird. Obviously, yes, the game is in a crappy state. It is. It needs so much work. But, like, hopping on the Twitter accounts of these individuals that love games or may just not love games and are working it as a job, which there are people, I've talked to people who are in the game industry that don't play games. They're like, oh yeah, I know development, so I'm working on development of a game.
You'd be surprised how many there are. It's just like, I was good at coding, so I got a job at, like, It's like if you go work at the supermarket, you might not be passionate about giving people groceries.
I love vegetables.
So it's surprising. I think a lot of them, it's kind of like there'd probably be no in between of, like, the people who absolutely love it and it's their passion, and then there's probably people who just could not care less and it's just a paycheck. Which, to be fair, that's like completely fair. It's a job.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone has
Yeah.
to like their job that much. So it's there's a lot of them out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's I like we're gonna try to talk about this in a future episode. I want to get Lossy and maybe someone else that has like gone on their channel or on Twitter and said, "Hey, I'm not really gonna be covering Battlefield as much. I'm gonna be trying out other games." But like, it's gotten to the point where like one these creators that have loved the franchise for. I was watching a video of one guy who's been playing for over 20 years on Dice Games, Battlefield 1942, all of the games. And he was doing his review and he was like, I hate to say this, but like I'm not having fun with this game. And like one of the things that I have this YouTube channel for is to have fun with games. And I'm just going to step away because I have nothing to add until it gets better. Westy was one of them that he specifically said, and it's a great video of just kind of laying out his experience with it. Like he stepped away from Battlefield 5 when it was having issues and he wasn't enjoying it, and they disrespect the game, honestly. And he was like, okay, I'm going to Warzone because they understand. I have fun with that game. They know what they're doing. And until this game gets to a point, and maybe it doesn't get to the point, and maybe I just continue exploring these other games. But as someone that like he is making a living off of his YouTube channels, he needs to find the things that perform where like Battlefield as a thing is not really doing well unless you are one of those haters or like it's so weird. Like if you are one of the people that love it unconditionally, you're going to do great. If you are someone who hates it unconditionally, you're also going to do great. But if you want to be in the middle there, and like most of the big YouTubers that's what they try to do. It's not really working out as like a full-time position for someone who makes all of their money from that historically for the past number of years.
Yeah, Westy's video was really well done, I thought. He went into like his sort of what he learned from Battlefield 5, and that he was more, which is weird because people call him a shill, but he was more of like a negative channel. Not to like I love Westy, not to say that in a mean way, but he was talking about stuff that he didn't like. It was mostly talking about they need to fix this, they need to fix that. Most of it, to be fair, it was all with feedback. It wasn't just like a big whinge. It was actually like constructive. But he said that he was going down a path to where he felt like that wasn't who he was, that he's not a negative person, but he was becoming negative because that's all there was, and he moved on. And that's why he's so quick to move on from 2042, because he doesn't want to be negative. He just wants to have fun. And I think a lot of people in the community need to listen to that and just like, if you don't like the game, that is completely fine. It is not in a good state, but sticking around and hating on it is not going to get you or the game anywhere, because they already know what's wrong. Hate doesn't fix it. Constructive criticism does fix it, but there is a very big difference. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. I don't think people know like the difference between hating on something and just giving feedback. So a lot of these people will be like, oh, but I want the game to be good again, so I'm trying to give criticism, but it's not criticism if you're just saying the developers need to quit their jobs and they're so terrible at what they do. That doesn't fix anything. Like, give feedback on the game or shut your mouth.
You're not offering anything constructive.
So I think, Westy just nailed it with how, like, it's such a... It shows his maturity that, like, he just didn't want to... He said what he needs to say about the game. Saying it again doesn't do anything. He's just now whinging. Once you've said your piece and then you keep doing it, that's just whinging at that point. So I thought that was really well done. And I think a lot of people need to listen to that. Once you keep repeating the same stuff, it's just an echo chamber at that point, and you're not doing anything positive, even though you might think you are. And I know a lot of people might have the right intentions, but it's not helping. So hopefully a lot of people watch that video.
It is a fantastic video. Highly recommend it. The whole kind of discussion around I'm becoming a negative person because I'm not finding joy in this game and I'm going to step away from it. That is the maturity of someone who's been making videos on content and on YouTube for a long time. He's definitely found success with it, and he's done a fantastic job with his platform of offering constructive feedback and then being like, okay, I've said my piece. Now, until this gets better, until it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to enjoy it. You can have fun. I've got these other things that I'm going to do too.
Yeah. And like the thing with it is that he makes a good point that he said his piece and nothing has changed. So he's just going to wait until it does change. Like if he says, oh, this thing needs to be fixed and it isn't fixed yet, then why repeat it? Like he's already said it. So
yeah,
that was his video, and same with Lossie's when he sort of announced he was kind of done. At least, I think it was like 2042 has defeated me or something was the title.
Yeah.
Those videos were both really well made. They showed their maturity that they feel the same way that we all feel, but they're not going to just have a big tantrum about it. Like it is what it is. They're going to go do other stuff. There are actually other games that exist. And if it fixes itself...
No way.
If it fixes itself, then
man.
they'll come back. And if it doesn't, then so be it. They can't change anything by repeating the same message every video. So, yeah, I'm glad that they're bigger creators in the community, because I'm glad that they're the ones saying that and they're actually getting noticed. Like, other than if there was someone with,
because they do have these massive platforms.
Yeah, exactly. If there was someone with 2 subs saying it, that's still a great message, but it's not.
Guys, I'm quitting Battlefield. It's defeated me.
So yeah, hopefully people just listen to that advice. And I know eventually, like, this same thing happened with Battlefront, where eventually the people who won't stop whinging, they do get bored and they go to something else. And once it gets to that stage, then the game seems to fix itself faster, because the feedback actually gets heard rather than just complaining. The people left playing it are actually wanting to improve the game, not just on the game because it's fun.
Yeah.
So once it gets to that point, hopefully that's sooner rather than later. That's usually when the games start to turn around, because the feedback actually gets heard. Because a lot of people, I think Lossie said it in his video actually, that there's so many people who give really good feedback and then they ruin it and make it like it doesn't get seen because they're putting a death threat on the end of it. You know what I mean? Like, they'll say some really like something that we all agree with, and we're like, yeah, that's really good advice. And then they'll be like, go kill yourself. And it's like, what, mate? You've just like, that's now not going to get heard because it's just a death threat.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? So yeah, it's a weird, very weird time for this community, and I think just gaming in general. It's not just like Warzone's in a terrible state right now as well. It's just the same in any shooter at the moment. It's just the whole first-person shooter type genre has just gone down the drain a little bit. So it's a weird time.
Who knew excessive violence in video games would offer such a weird platform for discourse between each other? It's strange, man.
I never thought of that, actually. That's a pretty good point.
Switching gears just a little bit. This is something that before I got COVID, we planned to talk about, and it's Andy McNamara.
Jeez, yeah.
I totally forgot about this, and they're like,
I've tried to erase it from my mind, to be honest.
What is he? The head of communications or something for shooters in Star Wars?
Yeah, something along the lines of that. And you'd think with that title, you might know how to communicate
Global
better.
Director of Integrated Comms for Shooters and Star Wars at Electronic Arts. His tweet says, back to work, check Reddit and Twitter, and Battlefield fans are pissed. We didn't do enough updates or communication during the holiday break. Guys, people gotta rest. We have things in motion, but we have to figure out what is possible. We will address it when we are 100%. Let us get back from break and get back to work. Love you guys, but these expectations are brutal. The things you want take time to scope, design, and execute. Well, apologies to all. Just wanted to fill you in on why there weren't updates. I'll be more careful in the future. Happy New Year, Battlefield peeps. So good to be back at work. I can just feel the love. And then he deleted the tweets.
It was a weird... I remember, like, seeing them as they were happening, like, in real time. And in his first two, I was actually on his side, because I think he was talking about during the holidays. I don't think when he said the whole brutal expectations thing, I think, and to be fair, it was worded so poorly, but I think he was talking about like the expectation that they should, because it's messy, they should work through the holidays and stuff. I think that's what he was saying was brutal. And so I was kind of like, at that point, I was like on his side of it, and I was like, I see what you're saying, and I kind of do agree with that. Then he just made it worse and worse, and I, by the end of it, was completely against what he said, because he was being so like condescending. Like apologies to all. I'll be more careful in the future. But like now you're making it into a pity party. Just stop talking, mate. Like you're not doing anyone any favors, and he himself made that so much worse. And then the tweet where it's like, so good to be back at work. Like you have already, the first two I understood, but they pissed a lot of people off, and I can see why people were pissed. The third one, you've now like crossed the line, and now it's an issue. Yeah. How have you then tweeted again? The third one was meant to be the one where it's like, oh, that was too far. Then he just kept going, and it was like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, I understand it because like
deaf.
He's obviously had a rough day and a rough holidays, and I get the need to vent, but like, just don't do that. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. I could not believe that whole fiasco.
Yeah, it's just so deaf to what people's like. The problems people have aren't expectations of people not working during the holidays. It's launching a game with so many issues so close to the holidays to where you can't fix it. Like,
well, the thing is though, there were people complaining about like them not working through the holidays, but it's like 0.001%. So he's picking out the tiny
it's like two
little,
guys down multiple accounts.
Yeah, and he's like essentially having a little snark at the whole community over what one person said, and it's like, there definitely were people with brutal expectations, but you're talking to like 0.001% of the community. Why even respond? Those people do not deserve. Anyone who says they should have worked through the holidays, your opinion is void, and you should just leave. Like, let's be honest, you don't know what you're talking about. You've probably never worked a job in your life, so their opinion doesn't matter. Why give them the time? Why respond to that? It's so... Yeah. That's the part that was annoying. Like, just don't... Maybe it's easier for you and me to say because we're on YouTube and we're very good at that because you have to be. Otherwise, you just can't survive on YouTube. You get so many positive comments and then one comment that's real, like, rude, and you have to learn to not care. So...
You learn just to block out the word. Well, actually...
Yeah. But you'd think he would have as well. He's in communications. Like, surely... Yeah. But surely by now you know that very small minority, what they're saying is irrelevant. They're people who say that type of stuff are just meaningless people that will probably never amount to anything. Why give them the time of day? They're not... You're now pissing off the rest of the community who actually have genuine... expectations of just don't launch a rough game. Like the rest of us are just having regular expectations, but now you're pissing us off because you worded it poorly. Like it was just so tone deaf. I could not believe it. The first two were fine. I understood why people were mad, but I understood what he was saying, and then from there I lost all like sympathy for him. I was like, nah, you've dug, you made your bed, now sleep in it. Like you.
Like everyone wanted a tweet like that, but not about the topic that, like, there's so many ways that you're like, back to work today. We understand that things are rough. The team is back in the studio and we're working on the next phases of the game.
Yeah.
And when we're all back to 100%, I'm like, boom, there you go. Instead of being like, well, back to work today, and you guys suck, and we're going to work on it when we feel like it, okay?
It was just so... I'm not sure I'm not even joking, I'm not sure he could have actually worded it any worse than he did. It was so bad. It was so bad. And I've spoken to Andy before in I think it was the Squadrons playtest. He's a nice guy, so I felt for him, but like after a bit I was like, nah, like this is now no one else's fault. You've messed up and you've got to wear that. And if he ever does stuff again,
man,
like
he's
that,
got tweets or his in his profile. this isn't about work. This is all of his stuff. Okay.
Oh goodness, it's just a mess, isn't it?
Yep. Oh my goodness. I want to end this on a positive note because I think we've been pretty negative.
Yeah. I think we've got to let all. We've had a month to build up all that, so I think it was fair to let that.
This is our own little personal therapy session. Yeah. Hi, my name's Sage. I'm frustrated with Battlefield. Hi, Sage. I'm not belittling therapy there. I understand it's super important. I'm just making a joke, just to be clear. But we've had so much time, like
it's
even
been brewing for a good minute, I think.
it has. This was supposed to be happening on January 6th, but it didn't. So Battlefield, like I love the series of Battlefield, and I hope with the people that they've got in the position, and I hope, like, I hate to say this, but I hope now that EA's not happy with it, they actually listen or change things up, because I feel like that's the only way EA will change things, is that, oh, we're not making money, something's wrong, let's reevaluate it.
Yeah, that's the fatal flaw with EA, is that they're just focused on value of
so I'm hoping Battlefield like completely crashes.
Yeah, in a way it's a good thing, isn't it? Like it actually has to die to be reborn.
Why do we fall, Bruce?
It has to.
I mean,
it has to crash, or else as long as it keeps making money, they will just be like, oh, it's going well. Who cares? Like, it needs to have that moment. So
exactly. Yeah. I mean, PlayStation, like over time, they eventually sold more consoles than Xbox 360s. That is a fact for sure. But it was over the span. For the longest period, Xbox was the head people in the gaming industry. Yeah. And then the PS4 came out and completely fixed all the problems. And then the Xbox One launched, and it started kind of the rough spot for Xbox. But now that PlayStation has like completely dominated, they aren't doing the things that players really want. And Xbox, who has to earn that respect back, they're doing everything in their power to make it an incredible gaming experience. And I think it's fantastic. With all the news about like Activision Blizzard and all that stuff, like they're making the investments to make good games for their players that they need to win people back. And that's what DICE needs. Like, I mean, they hurt everybody with Battlefield 5 and Battlefront 2, and this was their moment to redeem themselves. That shows, hey, we are a competent game development company, and we do value this franchise. And sadly, they fell flat on their faces about that. But they have a very unique opportunity that if they do it very well, they could, like, honestly, I think they should just kind of nuke everything and relaunch the game. Like, I think that's the best way to go forward. Like, they need to apologize, obviously, and say, hey, we understand what's going on. Unprecedented times, sprinkle some buzzwords in there. Hey guys, we're refocusing on Battlefield and we understand your concerns. That's all we need. But I honestly, like, I think this is a good thing for the community to show, hey, and show them, like, you can't just put out crap and we'll buy it.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to have, this is not how it works.
Yeah. This same thing happened with Call of Duty, and although the main games, to be completely honest, are still not that great, the franchise in general with Warzone, and they just announced like a new iteration of Warzone in the end of next year. So Warzone like has carried Call of Duty, and that has now brought back potential for the actual core game. So Call of Duty went through the same thing, and it didn't look like they could get out of it, and then they did, and that should show EA and DICE like this is their rough moment, and if they like it either goes one of two ways. It's either the franchise dies and they don't just like say with Battlefront 2, like they seem to not be making Battlefront 3, so essentially that franchise,
which I'm perfectly fine with after all this stuff.
If you asked me 6 months ago if I'd be fine with that, I would have said absolutely not. And if you ask me now, I'm very happy that Respawn's making the next one, or the next shoot, or whatever it's going to be.
I have a video from January 2021 that says I don't want DICE to make a Battlefront 3, so I've been on that bandwagon for started it.
Yeah, I think, like you said, this, as much as right now, because we're in it, it sucks. Like, this is
Yeah,
so
we're in
bad.
it. Like, we can't see the light at the end
Yeah,
of the tunnel
exactly.
because we don't even know we're in the tunnel.
Yeah, but in 5 to 10 years, this, I think, will be. I'm not even going to say it could be. I think this will be when we look back and go, oh man, remember how bad it was, but how much they learned from that, and now look where we are.
Mhm.
Like, I think I really just don't see the franchise in 10 years being still. It'll have its
Yeah.
own issues and stuff. Sure, it's not going to be perfect.
This is a make or break moment.
Yeah.
This is a core memory if we're going to put it in inside out terms.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we just have to, as much as it sucks, we just kind of have to deal with it, and then hopefully they can do, because it's not up to us. Like, we can give feedback. It's not our problem to fix. They need to,
and they've obviously shown that they aren't going to incorporate feedback because that was never a part of the process like it was in previous games.
Yeah, that's one thing that I am still baffled with, that they don't. They seem to have, and like, look, props to them that they had their own vision and they said, "No, we don't want feedback. Like, we want to stick. This is what we think works." Like, props.
Sammy, blink twice if you're contacted by EA right now about the next Battlefield game.
Oh, mate, I wish, because I'd be giving them feedback even if they don't want it, because that's my main issue with what the launch to this game. They didn't listen to the core player base. They showed everything we wanted to see, but they didn't actually implement what we wanted. And so I think moving forward they need to stop trying to make their own vision to an extent, because at the end of the day, like, the other side of it is that gamers have no idea what we want, and it's lucky we don't make a video game, because it would be the worst thing of all time. Like, they know how to make
It's gonna have
games
explosions,
better than us.
and we're gonna be doing these things that have all these effects.
Like, I think they need to have obviously a majority of the control over it, but the smaller, like, the stuff like the specialist system and stuff like that, they need to actually get feedback.
Destruction versus a tornado.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the type of stuff they need to listen moving forward. Or if they don't, like, the franchise will die. If they don't adapt to this, like, it will die. There's no, if it just keeps going
Battlefield
downhill.
already has been like it has not embraced the change of the industry. It's still made like a game that came out 2012.
Oh, if this type of game
discussion.
came out in 2012, this would be sick. But it's just not 2012.
Yeah.
Like, we need to change.
10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird situation, but I just hope that they really do. They keep saying, like, oh, we're gonna. They said in December or whatever, we're gonna commit to the game for years to come. Blah blah. Blah. It's one thing to say it. You've got to do it. You've got to listen. You've got to be willing to say, like, yeah, we messed up. That's why I want them to announce something, like, saying we're sorry.
Yeah.
Not because it's gonna it won't change anything. That doesn't fix the game. But I want them to acknowledge that they're wrong. Like, it seems like they're that type of person. You know, that type of person who, no matter what they do, they're always right. Doesn't matter. They could be clearly wrong, and they're like, "Nah, that's your fault, not my fault." Like, they are that person, and no one likes that person. Just admit you made a mistake. It's fine. We all make mistakes. Admit it and let us know you're committing. And if they do that and actually follow through and listen and put in the work, I have no doubt this game, not even the next game, but I have no doubt this game can still turn around. But if they don't do that, I don't see how it can turn around, to be honest.
Yeah. I think we're in the fire. We are the nuggets of iron getting refined before we're getting I mean, EA's the hammer. He's definitely hammering. It's a terrible analogy, but we're in the fire. I think this is an opportune moment. Whether or not they take it is a completely different thing, because they've shown, like, the incompetency that they have around making the decisions that would be good for the game going forward. But I think this is an opportune moment for them to say, hey, where the direction we were going in Battlefield is not good. People don't want it. Now, we may say statistically Battle Royale games are really good. We see some great numbers with Apex Legends, and they've got like these hero shooters, and we really want kind of like the Call of Duty thing. But, like, you may see all of these things on your data sheet that they go well together. All of the stats add up, and you've got trillions of players. But in reality, that doesn't work this way. Let's take a moment, assess the incredible amount of feedback that we're getting, unprecedented feedback, and look at it and say, hey, let's make this right by our players. That's all they need to say.
Yeah, that is the
that's what they said with Battlefront.
Yeah, that's the key to it. Is just make your fans happy, and the money that you're projecting on all your little spreadsheets and all the stuff that they seem to care about will come if your fans are happy. It's as simple as that. Yeah. You will make lots of money if people like what you're making. It's just so simple.
People buy good things.
It's so it actually is so. I remember we had this exact conversation once, and it's like how I don't feel like I need to go to business school because I clearly know it better than half of the people who work at these companies. Like they just have no idea, absolutely no idea. And there's obviously stuff that I would have no idea about either. But like the fact that they don't just understand, here's what the projections say and all this kind of stuff. Doesn't matter if the game sucks. So make sure the game is good. That is your only priority. Once that's there, add a battle royale, add the battle passes, add the stuff like that will make you money.
Get that core experience.
Yeah, but if the game sucks, that's none of that matters. So yeah, it's very confusing to me, but yeah, it is what it is. Unfortunately, we can't really do anything about those higher ups. So.
Exactly. I think it's so interesting too that like we're at the level with DICE of expectation, be like, yeah, please give us one map, and then in 2012 they're like, we're gonna give you 4 maps, we're gonna give you 20 weapons, you're gonna have all of this stuff, it's gonna be great, you're gonna love it, and we're like, please DICE, could you please give us a new map, please, it'd be great, even one every 3 months would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's
like the level of expectation there is so different. Like they've changed in that level, but they haven't changed in everything else.
Yeah, it's just such a weird situation. I don't even know how else to explain it. It's just so weird to watch from the outside on how incompetent they seem in some areas. And yeah, but the unfortunate thing is that when it comes to the higher ups, I don't know whether they will learn. Hopefully this failure will teach
Hopefully
them.
Vince Zampella gets in there and just kicks everybody in the face and is like,
yeah.
You're old. Get out of here.
Yeah. They genuinely need like an actual enforcer like that to just come in and say, no, you're gone, you're fired, you're gone, and just clean house and bring in people
the
who
negotiations were short.
and just get rid of the people that are making the wrong decisions. I'm sure there's still so many of the higher ups who are really good at their job, but there's obviously some who aren't. And yeah, it's
or maybe they're great at their job if they were a banking company and this is not going to work out for a video game company. Because I think we're getting to the point too, like this is a completely different like side tangent entirely, but like I think we're getting to the point where the people that started these companies are getting old.
Oh, 100%. And the other thing is
such a difference.
The other thing is too that like gaming has become so mainstream in such a big industry that there genuinely would be people
movies and music.
Yeah, there would be people who have a background in banking, who have a background in stuff that we have, like working at Amazon, like a higher up that is at Amazon who goes to EA. They had no idea about games. It's just because it's a big $1 billion company that they think, well, I've done it at Amazon, I can do it at EA. It's a smaller company, I know what I'm doing. But 10 years ago, that wasn't probably. I'm sure it would have happened. It's to some extent, but because gaming wasn't as big back then, I'm sure the people who were involved were more like they actually came from gaming, not from these outside companies. So that's probably part of the issue too. Is that the higher ups at these companies are people who they're just businessmen. They're not anything remotely close to gaming. They're just like an ex-bank CEO and an ex like. He worked at a TV station and stuff. It's like they have no idea what they're actually talking about. And the unfortunate thing is, like you said, the ones who were there at the start, they knew what they're doing, but now they're old and they haven't kept up with the times.
Probably have left already.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's a big part of it too, is that's the unfortunate thing with gaming becoming so mainstream now, is it's become it is just a business now. It obviously always was, but like
Yeah.
it was a business with a lot of passion, and now it's a business with a lot of how can we make the most money possible. And
Which needs to be there, but part of that,
Yeah.
how we make the most
Yeah.
money, needs to be we're going to offer a fun product.
yeah,
for
business is
people.
always like any business out there is always obviously 100% about the money first, but you can like I said, back in the day, it would have been more focused on making good products to make the most money, whereas now, because of the whole microtransaction stuff, like they've found that's like a shortcut to them. They're like, oh, who cares about making a good game? We can just make a game that's a 6 out of 10, but it's got monetization, so we're going to make more money, so who cares about the quality of the game? And I think that's where it went wrong, unfortunately, and hopefully it doesn't continue down that trend, because it's not looking good, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll see. I think for that, though, like, I think we've covered a good amount. I think we got a lot out of our chest, off our chest.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of, we're breathing freer now.
Yup.
Next episode, I want to try to get a guest. We may not have a guest, but Sammy and I are going to take some time and hopefully be able to find some Hazard Zone lobbies, because that's something that we're going to challenge ourselves to play a lot of Hazard Zone, or at least a good amount, to where we have an understanding of like, okay, because I still have not played it because I have no interest in it. So I'm going to take the time and be like, okay, let's get into Hazard Zone and just get some really good experience in that. And so a future episode will definitely be on that. And with that, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Battlefield Show. We are back. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support us, leave a review. You can rate us on Spotify or wherever you find podcasts. It helps us out a ton. I'd like to thank Ethan Clark for the awesome thumbnail, and see you next time on the Battlefield.